Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Heathlands at Home, and my name's Tony Mason. I'm a storyteller, a community artist, and a bit of a social historian. And this is another one in the series of our sort of history chats, if you like. And we're going to focus once again on images of Carlisle and its people, really. These photographs are all in black and white. Some have dates, some do not, and hopefully they may remind you, or they may help you to understand how Carlisle has changed slightly and what's changed around it. The interesting thing about some of these photographs is not necessarily the buildings, although they are interesting, but it's also the people and what was going on at the time. Carlisle, as we know, is a very ancient place, really. Once again, we've discussed it that the Romans originally, when they set up the Hadrian's Wall, utilised the confluence of the Eden and the Carlile to put up a fort, and it was a cavalry fort, really. It was the only cavalry station in the whole of the province of Britannia. Reason being is there was also a lot of trouble in the middle stages of the wall and also in the western side, and the cavalry could be dispatched a lot quicker than marching soldiers. So you could get to Gilsland, let's say, in a day's horse ride. And as long as the troops could hold out, if they were being attacked, then you would be relieved. This was in the Stanix area, and that was 2,000 years ago. The recent dig that was held in the grounds of Carlisle Cricket Club, has opened up a new side of the Roman side of Carlisle, in that they believe it was the residence of Septimus Severus, who came to these parts in about 280 AD to put down the locals, should we say. And I'm pleased to report I found out just the other day that there is going to be another dig scheduled for mid to late summer in 2021. Obviously then we had the Normans. They came along. However, in between those times, there was a good 500 years where there's been whispers about Merlin in the area, whispers about King Arthur, a Romano-Celtic war leader. He wasn't a king, and his men fought on horseback, whereas the Saxons and the Picts, who they were engaged in fighting, basically fought on foot. However, none of this can be proved nor disproved, although there are a number of writers who have said that there are great links to this time of the British history with Carlisle and its surrounding area. Moving through, you had the development of Carlisle Castle, particularly after the English had taken it back from, well, not back, had taken it off the Scots. The Scots were in charge in Carlisle Castle for 500, 600, 700 years or so, and fortified by the Normans. William Rufus, he built the castle, and also had a pub named after him in Carlisle. This moved on a bit, and you had a lot of activity with the Border Reivers, which we've covered on another talk. And Henry VIII did a little bit in Carlisle. Some of the castle fortifications of West Walls, for example, and around the courts were a bit from his time. You have Botchergate or Butchergate in Carlisle. You have Shaddon Gate or Irish Gate, because obviously it faced off to the west. you have Scotch Gate, which obviously faced off to the Scots. So there were a number of gates around medieval Carlisle. A walk round West Walls is always good to get an idea of the stonework, particularly within the Augustan Priory, which was there, which is now no longer there, but is in the environs of the cathedral itself. The cathedral itself is a very, very interesting place. The nave end, one of its naves, has been shortened. It was used as rubble to rebuild the castle in the in the wars between the parliamentarians and the king. It's said that Cromwell's troops stationed their mounts in Carlisle Cathedral. Also, in Carlisle Cathedral, apart from having a magnificent ceiling, it does also have some marvellous graffiti. If you go into the stalls where the choir boys and such like used to sit, you'll see there's some fantastic graffiti from round about 1545 and those times, etched and scraped into the wood. So well worth a look there. You've also got Tithe Barn, where taxes were collected, and you also have the Guildhall, which is an old building, and the Market Cross, where people much later on would go to get hired. It was a phrase predominantly in the last century, in the middle of the last century, where if people didn't believe what you said, they would say, get hired. Basically, it was you went to the Market Cross to get hired to work on the land or with the beasts in the field, or to be a drover. And many people came to Carlisle to get work from that. In this book, we have some images. So we're going to have a look at some of the images. And the first thing we're going to concentrate on is sports and pastime. Now then, any self-respecting Carlisle citizen should, male, female, or whatever, should know that after 3 games, Carlisle United were top of what was in that time the Premiership, the old First Division. And this was in 1974-75. However, they did get relegated in the same season. They won the first 3 games and were top of the league in the famous shirts that they have, and nice long hair, you'll notice. Lots of hirsute players and beards and sideburns. Very 70s, very early 70s. Carlisle always had and still does, a very good playing pitch. It's Solway turf, and they used to say it was the same turf that they used at Wembley because of its springiness, sponginess, but it could be a sapping, difficult pitch to play on because it made running with the ball quite difficult. But that's Carlisle. I know some of the players. That's John Gorman, for example. I presume that's the manager there. These will be the trainers. But a true Carlisle United historian would be able to give you all. But there's some interesting faces in that one. This next one is also very interesting, but much more local. This is the Cummersdale Hornets, a rugby team from 1892 to 1893. Obviously, a group photograph was taken for those times was quite something. There must have been one hell of a team to get the photograph taken, and to be reasonably rich to do it. There's some marvellous moustaches here. Some marvellous moustaches. No beards though, and no long hair, notice. Yeah. This photograph, a little bit larger than some of the other ones, but it's a copy of an original one. And this is Carr's Biscuits, obviously, football team, 1920s. Up until, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, I'm led to believe that a lot of teams, a lot of works organisations had their own team and they would compete for the Hospital Cup. What's interesting about this photograph is the goalkeepers wear hats. And if you look down here at the bottom, laced up boots, when boots were boots, not slippers like nowadays. And I bet you these guys could take a tackle and give one out. I'm not sure where the photograph was taken, but obviously there's a clubhouse there. And the match ball, which would be a leather caser to those of us old enough to have played with one. Not a synthetic one like nowadays. These balls, when wet, well, basically they double in weight. And to head one with the laces coming down at you, it wasn't pleasant. But yeah, they look a formidable side, really. I don't know if Carr's Biscuits still have a football team or not. Now this photograph is in the pastime section. There's no date on this photograph. 1920s, 30s perhaps, possibly a little bit earlier. These guys are going off either rabbiting or otter trailing. There's a newspaper article from the 50s telling us of a 22-pound dog otter on the River Esk being killed by said otter hounds. Of course, it may be that they're going rabbiting, but there's some fantastic beards here. And everybody's, we've mentioned this before, everybody's got a hat on, even the young lad here. I'd be surprised if the dog didn't have a hat on at some stage. You were not nobody if you didn't have a hat. Now this is potentially the oldest photograph, and it's also quite possibly the oldest photograph of one of the local surrounding village pubs. It's quite faint, so try and look a bit closely. What's interesting is the hats. These are like Isambard Kingdom Brunel type hats these two guys have got on, and the coachman, look. So it's obviously pre-motorised vehicles, let's say. Let's be bold. Somebody's either getting married or it's some official kind of function. Somebody's leaving, or that's the stage coming in. This guy's got a button coat on, just you can see. This one's waving a hat. This guy's waving a hat here. Now, I've done some research. The Little King's Arms Inn. It's not something I'd come across in my work looking at state management. It turns out this is what is now the Lowther Arms in Cumwick. It's a very old photograph. You can see how round the side here. Yes, so it's possibly box brownies. Anyone? Could be. But obviously it's been an important occasion. Even got the lady at the window. Now this isn't strictly in the entertainment section, this next photograph, but it is an oddity, and I thought I would put it in here because I just thought it was interesting. And it probably wouldn't happen now. In fact, I doubt it would happen. 1965. It's snowing. There's a bullock. Bullock escapes from the auction mart, which was at the back of Botchergate, until reasonably recently. Within a living memory, a lot of these photographs that we've seen in the previous programme and coming up are within a living memory. Obviously the one with the Isambard Kingdom Brunel hats is obviously, there's no one alive from that time, I would have thought. But these are all within a living memory. And I have been informed that they had to get a marksman come up, apparently from Preston, to dispatch this said animal, because obviously it got distressed so much. But it's interesting. That wouldn't happen now because obviously there's no auction mart. It's now out at Rose Hill. This photograph doesn't have a date. It's a view from the allotment at Stanhope Road. Now, why and how anybody decided they would take a photograph of an allotment with views in the distance? Maybe this bit of land here was going to be developed. In the distance, you've got Coldigate and the castle. So, without a date on this photograph, it's very difficult to ascertain when this area was developed between Stanhope Road and that part of Coldigate. But it's within a lifetime. I mean, these are pigeon lofts here. We're going to look now at a series of photographs of shops fronts that you would find predominantly down Botchergate. Botchergate, to a lot of older people, was the principal shopping area in Carlisle. Before the lanes was built and before the old lanes was knocked down, these shops was the principal shopping area of Carlisle. So, I've been told, because I didn't experience a lot of these anyway, but I've been told by a lot of people from Carlisle, they do remember Mablin. That's where you would get your sweets. And it looks like they're advertising players and senior service and Bristol tipped cigarettes. The local paper here is saying new signings for Carlisle, meaning Carlisle United, obviously. So they sold a lot of cigarettes, captain, full strength, players, senior service, Bristol. You can tell it's in Botchergate because of the definitive stepped roof. This here is where there was an old church ground actually, and it's still there. They can't build on it because it's full of bodies from the plague. So consequently, that land now is still as it is. It has grass on it, and I think there's one or two trees. But they can't build on it because there are a number of bodies under there, and it was consecrated ground, presumably. This next one takes us next door. Obviously, here we are. There's Mablin's. And this is Farrell's. shut, not open today, which makes me think these photographs might have been taken on a Sunday. Paper shop's open, but pastry cook and confectioner isn't. Probably lived above the shop. I don't have any dates for any of these photographs that you're seeing on this stroll down Botchergate. I can only assume it's late 50s, early 60s, or even late 60s. It's sometime in there. I've got a feeling with some of the signing that you get to see, it's possibly in the mid 60s. Signs were obviously designed to last, so just because you've got something up doesn't necessarily mean it was done yesterday. Tyler's shoe shop. Once again, it's closed. So someone has obviously gone down Botchergate taking photographs of all the shops down there. Maybe it was because they were all relocating to the new Lane shopping experience, but I don't think so. No parking though. No, isn't the street clean? You noticed if we were to go back, keep your eye out as we go further forward, how clean the streets are. When did we become a throwaway society, I wonder? Interesting. This is JS Hope Limited. They're selling a vacuum cleaner in this corner and linen in this corner. Limited company, which means it was a bit more, not higher status, that's the wrong word. It was different from the corner butchers, for example. They've obviously decided that they would make themselves a limited company. They may have had branches in other places like Wigton or Brampton or anywhere. This one's interesting because it gives us 3 for the price of 1. But the first obvious thing that we've got here, Cumberland Inn. The Cumberland Inn is a very, very, very good example of a state management Harry Redfern scheme establishment. And in fact, a few years ago, when the hairy bikers came to Carlisle, they went there. Blake's Medical Stores. What's interesting is they supply senior service cigarettes for you as well. I suppose anything, I don't know. Pullers, I'm not exactly certain. They're selling something for 3 and 6. But they're not open. Neither are Blake's Medical Stores. And the Cumberland Inn, the doors are closed. Well, of course, if it was Sunday, they may not be open till 12 o'clock. Closing at 2 and then reopening later on at 6. Those were the opening hours. 7 days a week, really. Another shot of a store. This shows you exactly how many shops there were on Botchergate, but not only the different types of shops that were on Botchergate. And once again, there's no rubbish on the street. The London and Newcastle Tea Company. Yes, there was a shop just dedicated to tea and all the things that went around it. Now, we don't have dates, as I've said before, for any of these buildings, these shop fronts. This one is on what I think will be the opposite side of the road from what we've been looking. Well, possibly not. No, come to think of it, we've got the sign of Botchergate. That's the Crown, which is on the corner. We've got a sign saying something was established in 1881. I don't think they're there now, to be frank. And Bo Peep Wools. Get knitting, basically. But no waiting allowed. Now, this is one of the few organisations and businesses which is still there. So what we've got is Palace Cycles, still there. Ethel Davidson, she's closed. And ride the BSA, the flashing modern bicycle. They also built motorbikes as well. I don't think they're existing anymore. But certainly Palace Stores, Palace Cycles, as is now, is still there. In fact, the picture hall is near there because there's the palace down the side. Some of the designs on the buildings are on the facades are excellent. Here we are. That's we've seen an image on the previous broadcast of the County Hall Hotel. So this is right at the top of Botchergate. This is Reed's Tailors to the County set. And you've got shirts in the window and jackets and obviously County Hall Hotel, advertising, dancing. So this could be anywhere from, say, the mid-50s to mid-60s time. The bar solo possibly might just be here. And as we can see, number 6, so it's right at the top. Now this one, I think it'll be on the opposite side of the road. This is Melia's Provisions and Groceries. There's a boot company there. And that says tea prices reduced. Of course, all these prices here will be in pounds, shillings and pence. Decimalisation only came in 1971. Up to that point, there were 120 pennies to the pound, not 100. This is it looks older. I think it's an oldish photograph, and it's of the cooperative central buildings in Botchergate. And it says Carlisle Southend Cooperative. Through there, I'm led to believe you would go through that alley to get to the Palace Picture Hall. I think that's possibly sometime in the very late 40s, early 50s. Because they moved probably further up the street. So here we are, the Carlisle Southend Cooperative Society. Now, these are very 1930s type of sort of windows and things. and they've slimmed down a bit. They have a food hall, and it's self-service. That's what those signs say. No, that says self-service, and that's food hall. They've got tins in the window and what have you. Be interesting to find out, perhaps, how this organisation fared. Did it become part of the bigger cooperative society? I mean, the co-op is... There's still quite a few co-op food stores in and around Carlisle. And of course, what happens with a food stall is you have members and you get a divvy, as they used to call it. So consequently, you spent money, you got a reward, very much like Sainsbury's, Tesco's, all those kind of places do. And what I have here is a very fragile and unfortunately some of it's in pencil, but it's a co-op list, household list for Mrs. Grantham in Ludford in Lincolnshire, not Carlisle, I grant you, but it gives an idea as to what the prices were like in the co-op pre-decimalisation. And because there's a quarter of sweets on here, we're going to say that it's not in ration time. So it's either pre-1939 or post-1953-ish. So we could say it's mid-50s. What's interesting here is that you can buy one salmon. It doesn't say fillet or anything, so let's just assume it's a whole salmon. One salmon for 4 shillings and 9pence, which is, to you and me, around about 50 pence. Actually, come to think of it, it's actually less than that. Much less than that. 10 shillings is worth 50 pence. That's half of 10 shillings. So, 25 pence. Okay? Quite cheap for a whole salmon, really. However, if we look here, on this one, here, 1 tin of fruit salad was 4 shillings and 2pence, which is only 7pence cheaper than the salmon. Hello? How? How is this? How is 1 tin of fruit salad nearly as expensive or cheap as, depending how you look at it, in modern day terms, the salmon? Well, the theory is it's fruit. That's one thing. It's preserved in a tin. A lot of things, people maybe didn't have, a lot of people didn't have fridges, remember? They had a cold store. And if it was in and around 30s, 40s or 50s, the canning process was quite expensive. It wasn't cheap. But fruit salad, I mean, even now, we've got here, 1 tin of tomatoes was 1 and 3. Okay, fair enough. Further up a little bit, 2 tins of garden peas, large, 3 and 9. So tinned goods were slightly more expensive because they lasted longer. We've got some names that you can recognise. You've got 1 packet of shredded wheat here. Further down in pencil, 4 ounces, old money, of Bovril. A pound of number 11 tea, which came from Edinburgh. There's still a tea shop in Edinburgh, number 11, was 7 and 8, which would be about 40 pence. So this whole bill came to £2, 8 shillings and 22p. So that's 240 pence and 8 shillings. So really, if you think about it, it didn't come to £3. a fascinating insight into what each family, and more than likely it would be the women folk in the family, had to put together. Up here in the top is the ladies' co-op divvy number. Each individual person had their own dividend number. And in fact, in other places, in Newcastle, for example, shops actually encouraged the individuals to shop there by giving their own plastic money in as change. So, say for example, you spent £1, or rather, you bought goods for 9 shillings and you handed in £1. You could have 1 shilling back, or you could have 2 shillings in, as in this case, parish's money. So you were getting double, but you could only spend it in that shop. So some of the schemes that supermarkets use are not that new, really, when you think about it. Finally, I've got 2 postcards to show you of reasonably local scenes. The first one is from the coronation of the 12th of May 1937. So that will be the current Queen, Elizabeth's father's coronation. So this is 1937. And it says, the opening of the zigzag path from the park in St James's in Denton Home. Now it's an interesting photograph because you've got lots of top hats and different things. So this park, the zigzag path in Denton Home in St James's, is 1937. And you can see there's the path, and it zigs and it zags and it goes round down there. Slightly different to that one, we've got another one from the 18th of August 1970. And let's see if you can guess where it's from. This one's in colour. It does actually say in very small letters here, the green at Southend. So that's a postcard from 1970. Southend on a sunny day. Thank you.